Do you remember Seat's slogan from 20 years ago, German precision, Spanish temperament? The slogan was good. But only now when I look at the design of the Formentor, I come to the conclusion that it has finally matured, because the temperament has turned from a word into reality 20 years later. I invite you to the test of the Cupra Formentor, and if you're new to my channel, my name is Zakar. Let's get started. I remember that moment clearly, Geneva 2019, and the Formentor concept. It was no longer just a clone of the Cupra, but a completely new car that 6 years ago looked like it was from another planet. It caused such a sensation that by the following autumn it hit the road almost unchanged. And that was the turning point, the moment that in my eyes justified the whole operation of creating Cupra. The excitement from 2019 remains. The car still looks fresh and sells well. Last year it was still Cupra's best-selling model. So it shouldn't be surprising that the millionth car in the brand's history turned out to be, of course, the Formentor. Sadly, in 2020, when the Formentor arrived in showrooms, I had to take my own sick leave. I took a break from YouTube and missed out on this car, and it's kind of a strange feeling to know a car from the streets, cities, and YouTube videos. The Formentor was always there in the background as a symbol that once justified the creation of Cupra as a separate brand for me, and today that symbol is finally coming to life for me. And if you ask yourself, why did I actually decide to test a car that's already 6 years old? There are 3 reasons. First, I've wanted to for a long time. Second, the car has been facelifted. And third, whatever you know about its prices is no longer valid, because big discounts have just started. But I'll talk about that at the end of the video when I discuss the current price list. As always, opinions on last year's facelift are split. Some oppose it, others admire it. But one thing is certain, there are many more of the latter, because after the facelift, Formentor's sales jumped by several dozen %. Cupra wanted to show that it's maturing, so the front got the so-called shark nose and distinctive triangular LEDs in the headlights, which have basically become the brand's trademark now. It looks impressive. It even reminds me a bit of Porsche, and the headlights can optionally be matrix ones as well. From the side, nothing has changed. The profile remains the same, which is likely good. It's unfortunate the color options are mostly subdued, though they suit the copper accents. Before the facelift, red was available, but now it's gone. At the back, we see the familiar triangles just like at the front, and look, they're arranged almost in 3D, and these layers light up and go out accordingly. To highlight this effect, we also feature an illuminated Cupra logo. It looks great at night and also during most of the day in winter in Poland, but in the summer it might lose a bit of its effect, but at least thanks to this feature. When we're driving with daytime running lights, the illuminated LEDs are not only at the front. By the way, if any brand in the Volkswagen group should have such a glowing, edgy logo, it's probably Cupra, not the more conservative Volkswagen. The rear bumper has also been redesigned. Now it's more aggressive and angular. In the VZ version, there are 4 fully functional exhaust pipes underneath, while all the other versions have fake ones in this spot. As usual, it could be better, but you can see more style and personality here. But that's not all, because there have also been changes in the technology. Let's take a look under the hood, and most importantly, unlike the Far Eastern options, here under the hood you can choose from as many as 8 different engines, and soon there will be a 9th one as well. I'll talk about that in a moment. So a full European spectrum, from the simple 1.5 through the 2.0 diesel mild hybrid, all the way to 2 plug-ins with a range of over 100 kilo and 50 kilowatt charging. At the top is the VZ, offering 333 horsepower and a torque splitter that can direct all power to a single rear wheel. So there's a lot to choose from, and I don't know if you've heard about the latest news. Cupra will reportedly make 4,000 VZ5 units with 390 horsepower, powered by a 2.5 turbocharged stratified injection 5-cylinder engine. That's supposed to be the 9th engine to choose from. My test car is the 1.5e turbocharged stratified injection with 150 horsepower, which is a mild hybrid, probably the most universal version in the whole lineup. Front-wheel drive, 7-speed direct shift gearbox, 48-volt system and torque of 250 Nm. The manufacturer says 0 to 100 km/h takes 9 seconds, so this car isn't sporty in practice. The declared consumption is 5.9 per 100 in both the acceleration and fuel consumption. Of course, I measured it for you and I'll show you in a moment. Maybe I'll clear up any doubts as to why the electric motor added to the combustion engine doesn't increase the total maximum power of the whole system. Because the 1.5e turbocharged stratified injection has exactly the same power of 150 horsepower as the 1.5 turbocharged stratified injection. Why? Well, that's because it's not a hybrid, it's actually a mild hybrid, which means that the 48-volt motor is basically integrated with the combustion engine and its purpose isn't to increase power. In those peak moments when the combustion engine is giving its all, it doesn't add power. Where the combustion engine is already producing 150 horsepower, it just supports the combustion engine. At times when we're driving slowly, when we're starting off, when we're moving in traffic, or when we're actually starting up the combustion engine, after the engine is turned off by the start-stop system, I'll talk about whether this drivetrain actually suits the character of the Formentor during the driving impressions. But for sure, this cheaper engine gives you the chance to drive out of the dealership at a lower price and also to use less fuel. A car that looks good no matter the engine. So if someone values the feel of the car more than a herd of horsepower, then I think this engine could be quite a good compromise in the middle of the Formentor after the facelift. The main change is the new 12.9-inch screen and the illuminated touch panel below it. Here we can control the temperature and volume. We have a new, more stable, faster system here, so we can even demonstrate that everything we click on here responds instantly. Look, it really works very quickly, and in the new Leon it works very similarly. In general, Cupra is talking here about a completely new human-machine interface, which stands for human-machine interface. The cockpit is slightly redesigned with a new console, updated air vent layout, and improved fit and finish. There are copper accents, of course. This is Cupra, but they're a bit more subtle than before. We can see them here and there are also a bit more soft touch materials, which I'll get back to in a moment. It's generally a bit more premium than before, but definitely not luxurious, because that's not really the point of this car or this brand. And there's also this exciting touch. Now every Formentor has these two buttons on the steering wheel: start, stop and drive mode selection. Previously, this feature was only available in the VZ version. When it comes to finishing materials, look here. You can literally sink your finger in. That's the kind of materials used across the whole width. And here, look how the visor above the driver's display bends. There on the dashboard there's hard plastic, but it's just a narrow strip. Then, as we go lower with sharp lines, of course, we get to a material that really looks very nice. It's just plastic lower down, and then we move on to more standard plastics. Here we have something that could normally be piano black, but in this car it's just finished differently. And that's good, because you don't see fingerprints. Let's move on. Here, lower down, of course there are hard plastics, but notice here, lower down, right where your knee will rest during the drive, there's leather and quite a bit of padding. Here we have some stitching on the handle, a soft finish at the very top, then there's hard plastic, a pretty nice kind of faux Alcantara, perforated but hard. There's nothing underneath here. And the left armrest, I would say, could be deeper, although it's soft, and on the right side it's completely fine. So in my opinion, the minimum program has definitely been accomplished, meaning a few spectacular spots finished really well. The rest, I would say, is within the budget, plus some nice extras for long distance travel, like being able to comfortably rest your leg. Moving to storage compartments, there's a phone charger, 2 pockets, one deep, one shallow, and cup holders. A very modest, I would say, storage compartment under the armrest with a 12V outlet up front. We also have a USB-C port, a glove compartment for the passenger that's quite spacious and plastic inside, and also quite spacious plastic door pockets. When it comes to jerking, let's do it. You can squeeze a little sound out of the base of this handle here, just a minimal noise, and this part sticks out, so it'll be easy to break off if you rock it. Careful, and here nothing, it moves just a little and doesn't make any sounds. Nothing here, and here something squeaked for a moment and now nothing. Let's try moving this protruding air vent, and nothing either. And this one, Nothing either. I did say something once, but now silence, 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 so I guess that's just how this handle is, and now it's quiet, and on the left it's quiet too. I'm trying, really trying, but only a little. Sometimes the plastics start to settle after the first grip, but generally they stay quiet, so when it comes to the fit, it's absolutely not bad either. Time for the 2-meter test. Take a look at what's happening here. The steering wheel adjustment has a wide range. I pull it out and raise it to the maximum, and then I move the seat up a bit, and now I'm set up properly, even with a bit of extra room, and the best part is yet to come. Well, I can adjust the seat here, moving it forward and even more forward and still more forward. And finally, my right knee touched the console. The console is concave in front of the driver, not convex like in many cars, which means I have plenty of space for my knee here, and I'm able to meet the steering wheel in the optimal position and moment for myself. And that's something I really appreciate in cars, especially when it's combined with this much headroom. So it may not be a huge car, but inside it has managed to provide the driver with at least a huge amount of space. Let's see how it is in the back. I still have some room here, and I also have headroom, an impressive 4 fingers really. There's also plenty of space for my feet under the seat, which is set as low as possible, and it's more than enough. In addition to the space, there's a third climate control zone and 2 USB-C ports here. Well, there's a pretty high, but luckily not too wide, center tunnel, one pocket, another pocket, and quite large door pockets, holders for up to 3 cups, and some not very practical, not very convenient ways to hide the ISOFIX mounting points. I'm not a fan of this solution because you have no idea where to aim. But as has probably been said more than once, not just by me, this isn't really a typical family car, so I guess we'll just have to accept that. Cupra is the kind of brand where we could say that carrying suitcases doesn't have to be its ace up its sleeve. You could forgive it for being impractical, but just look at this. We have 450 liters of trunk space, foldable backrests, 1 or 2/3, and an opening for skis. I've prepared everything here, you can see it all, right? We have storage compartments on one side, and on the other side we also have plenty of hooks. 1, 2, 3, and 4, there you go, a light on the right side. Here we have a 230V outlet, and under the trunk floor there's a spare wheel, but also quite a lot of extra space. I suppose it would also be possible to lower the floor because that's what the construction on the left side suggests, but on the right side it's not possible because of this foam. I don't know why it's here, apparently it's needed for something, but if it weren't for it, the floor could have 2 heights. Notice that these plastic elements on the sides can be removed, which will allow us to transport slightly longer items across the width. When you open the mirrors, they display the Cupra logo, and the whole car is nicely illuminated at the front and back. Here's a quick look at the nighttime lighting, starting with the steering wheel. There are plenty of buttons here, all nicely illuminated. Notice that the paddle shifters under the steering wheel are also lit up. That's not always standard these days. Here we have the light control panel, and of course it's illuminated. As you can see, everything on the doors is also illuminated except for the door handles, which are not. But these are features more typical of luxury cars. The door pockets as well, but for example, the button next to the driver's pocket is definitely illuminated. The USB-C port is already illuminated. The compartment with the wireless charger is not illuminated, but the gear selection control panel is illuminated. A bit lower, a few buttons are also not illuminated in the cup holders or in the armrest, but the glove compartment is illuminated, the footwell is illuminated, and so is the area for your hands. You can say the doors, as you saw, are also lit. There's also an LED strip that basically runs from left to right, but in the back, interestingly, the doors no longer have those lights. Oh, and of course, we can change the color of these LEDs. Here we have several different options to choose from, and all the colors adjust accordingly. You can also set your own custom version, like one color for one and a different color for the other. Here's an example of how the lights work. These are the low beams and these are the high beams. When it comes to visibility, this car has 2 sides. It's fantastic in the front. The A-pillars are relatively thin and not too close to the driver's eyes, so they don't block visibility. The interior mirrors could be a bit bigger, but overall they're sufficient. Look at the large gap between the mirror and the pillar, and what else helps? Also notice that we can see a large part of the hood with those bulges. From the perspective of someone who's 2 meters tall, the interior mirror is just a bit off at my height. I have to literally duck down a few centimeters to regain 100% visibility. On the right side, the mirror didn't fit perfectly, but it's not a big gap. Let's move on, and it's only from the back that a sort of second face of this car appears, namely the window lines. It starts to rise sharply at the C-pillar, and as a result, we can't see much in that corner. The rear window is also quite steeply inclined, so you really have to use the reversing camera here. Time for driving impressions, and I'll say right away I was actually glad that the car I got for testing wasn't some top VZ version, but this one, you could say it's the basic version. 150 horsepower from a 1.5, because I think that Cupra, to be consistent, to deliver the sporty experience it promises, both with its name and, in the case of the Formentor, especially with its looks, it has to provide that regardless of the horsepower. Fortunately, history knows plenty of cases, and each of us knows plenty of cases where cars with a huge herd of horses under the hood drove just so-so, and the other way around. Cars that didn't have to be powerful at all to give a lot of driving pleasure because they handled great. I don't think I'll surprise anyone if I say that Cupra did everything it could do best and tuned the Formentor so that you want to take corners in it, and right away. The number of horsepower when it comes to this kind of everyday driving experience takes a bit of a back seat. I'm not saying there couldn't be more horsepower, there could always be more, and we'd always have more possibilities on the road. But let's be honest, 10 years ago I would have said that 150 horsepower is a great sporty car. Today with the Formentor, the price lists actually start at 150 horsepower, but that doesn't mean 150 horsepower is little. It's just a change in what customers expect and what manufacturers provide. And that's fine, after all. The manufacturer claims 9 seconds to 100, and I managed to do those 9 seconds to 100. The measurement actually showed that 9 seconds is definitely achievable. It's just that now we're driving on wet asphalt, and this wet asphalt doesn't really give you a good start. I tried several times and my best result was 9.0 something because the car lost fractions of a second at the start each time. In ideal conditions, you could even get below those 9 seconds, and that's not a bad result. I drove this car in both Warsaw and Krakow, including city streets and the expressway. I covered a few kilometers at various speeds, and I know that it's not the horsepower that defines the horses, which are definitely not lacking here. What defines this car is only how it behaves in corners, how it turns, how the driver feels the steering wheel, how the driver reads the car, and how very neutrally, and I would say without emotion, this car handles such sharp maneuvers. For example, the Moose test, actually, for the past 2 days in Krakow, it's been impossible to do a proper Moose test because the asphalt has been wet all the time. However, when I picked up this car in Warsaw, the first thing I did was go and start testing it right away. So this car swerves to the left, returns to its lane, and then in the second phase of returning to its lane, it catches a slight oversteer. It corrects itself automatically without really needing any intervention from electronic systems or the driver. That's it. So I can try to do this maneuver now, but knowing how things go, the wet asphalt will completely ruin it for me. And I'll even tell you, I was actually expecting a bit more sliding. I tried earlier and I think the left turn has dried up a bit, at least on the way back. Did you hear that? There was a slight squeal from the tire, but honestly it wasn't really necessary. I told the story about how I did it in Warsaw because you can see it can be done in Krakow too, and now it was even harder this time. You could say that now the car squealed a little, slid and lost traction. And despite that, the system trusted that nothing serious was happening because there were no flashing warning lights. So even if we go into a slight skid, the car still believes that both it and the driver can handle it together without electronic assistance. And that's kind of part of the idea behind the Cupra. Whether you have 150 horsepower or 133, that's not crucial or defining for the car. And if I were to complain, first of all, this engine loses traction pretty easily on wet surfaces. That happened to me many times here, exactly with the wheels slightly turned and on slightly wet asphalt. Basically, pressing the gas pedal hard always ends the same way, but I kind of asked for it, so I got what I wanted, the effect. However, well, all-wheel drive would definitely make it easier, but maybe that's just a made-up reason to complain. This car definitely isn't exceptionally well soundproofed. It's soundproofed at the level of an average, let's say, model from the Volkswagen group. So it's not terrible, but there's nothing to be impressed about either. Certainly, if we had a car here with summer tires, it would be a bit better, actually quieter. However, I'm absolutely not complaining about the sound of the engine, which, even though it has, let's say, a modest capacity, still sounds quite nice when it revs up. And fortunately, they didn't mute that. So, to sum up my first encounter with Formentor from behind the wheel, I can say that I didn't lose as much as it might have seemed. From the dry numbers in the price list, getting this basic version in terms of power, because there will always be time for the VZ later. And now I definitely know that the 1.5 ETSI is absolutely not a compromise when it comes to the experience with Cupra and Formentor. It could always be more powerful, we could always do 0 to 100 faster, but it's still a Cupra. The price you'll have to pay for a new Formentor mainly depends on the engine. The standard equipment also depends on it, so the VZ versions already have almost everything as standard, while with the weaker engines you have to buy a few extras. Prices range from 132,400 Polish zloty for the base 1.5 manual to about 255,000 Polish zloty for the VZ with 333 horsepower 4-drive and direct shift gearbox. These are the amounts after the 15,000 Polish zloty discount, which is currently available and can be exchanged for a 5,000 Polish zloty discount plus special financing. My test car, the 1.5 ETSI with 150 horsepower and direct shift gearbox, is the mid-range model. Its base price is 142,900 Polish zloty, and with edge and dynamic design packages, it's about 153,580 Polish zloty. So it's not some fully loaded, out-of-this-world car, but rather a fairly realistic Cupra that could be chosen by many customers. 20 years ago, Seat promised Spanish temperament, but today Cupra doesn't have to say it anymore because you can just see it. And the Formentor, with its range of engines and all the Volkswagen backing, is proof that in Europe you can still make cars that are impressive, refined, and simply have that special something. I'm glad that I finally got to meet the Formentor, and I'm also glad that it wasn't with the top exclusive version, but with the more widely available one with the basic power. Because, first of all, now I know that even this version has the spirit of Cupra in it, and secondly, from here on out, it can only get better. Thanks for watching, subscribe and see you in the next videos. Bye!